want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. What, we are constantly making changes.
You in here? Yeah, maybe you...
Oh, there we go. Okay, is everything good? Awesome? Yes?
Are you getting it through the board?
I can hear. Yeah, it's going through the board.
Okay, well, let's do that one more time.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Smith Radio. Your host, Brian Smith, and
Carrie Smith.
Doing this a second time around. If you were there on Spreaker Live, you heard the intro twice, working with some new sound equipment. If you're watching us right now on Periscope, you are watching us on a recorded show. This is 2018. Had to blow it.
You're not going to do it like MSNBC, where
No,
we're going to fake and act like, we're counting the ball dropping when it's like recorded back in Thanksgiving?
No, we're not going to go down that road. MSNBC, they can have their own fake news network. They can have their own fake, hey, we're going to lie about this not really being, we're going to tell you that it's Thanksgiving Day, but really we're all at home with our friends and our family. I'm looking pretty good over here. How are you doing?
Everything's good. I just have a little tiny bit of a buzz, but it's that same buzz that we used to hear back in the day, but whatever.
Something that we always still have.
Yeah, sometimes we can kind of get rid of it, but I'm hearing it a little bit now. It's very faint, so I think we'll be okay. Apologize to the audience for that. It's just a little minor hiccup that we will just have to ignore for the time being. After you do the show for a while and you listen to us for long enough, your brain doesn't pick it up anymore, and then you don't hear it.
Just don't even see it.
Well, I never saw it. So. Anyway,
like Chuck Norris, he can hear sign language and read Braille.
Oh my God!
Yeah, man. So, anyways, this is 2018 special. Donald J. Trump this year, 2017, most incredible year in the history books that I can remember. I've got two different articles, one from Washington Compost and one from the New York Times. Both of them have their top 10 list of Donald Trump complete and utter lies. I think Washington Compost says they're up to 1,628 lies from Donald Trump in 298 days. We will expose that and show you how fake that is. I was going to say,
every time somebody talks about how Donald Trump's a liar or that he said a lie or whatever, my first gut reaction right off the bat, without even hesitating, it's like I don't even have to think about it anymore, is, okay, name one. And most of the time, like 9 times out of 10, they won't even acknowledge that I asked that question or that I called him out. And in the very rare circumstance that they actually do attempt to name a lie, it's not a lie.
No, it isn't. It's just something made up that they've made up. And a couple of them, like one of the lies, I'll spill the beans, a little teaser here. One of the lies they say is that Donald Trump lied in the interview with New York Times this past weekend when he said Russia was made up by the DNC because they lost the election.
Now, why is that a lie? They have some explanation to do that.
Explain it. They got some explain it.
They got some explain it. You can't just say, well, that was a lie. Okay, well, you haven't proven that it's anything other than absolutely true in how long now? It's been over a year. I think it was November 24th of 2016 that the Washington Post released the first article that was, they've had a lot of fake news before, but This was the first whopper of a fake news lie article, totally fake, about Russian collusion. That was their first one. It was
Right.
it was the big one. That was the one that pretty much opened up the discussion for Russia being involved in the election of Donald Trump. And it just went from there. They said, wow, this actually might have traction. Let's go with it. It's funny because it kind of never really did have a lot of traction.
No, and it's the reason why they have to give it traction every day, every story, every single news cycle, and it still hasn't caught traction. And most people believe it's all BS anyways.
When I used to deliver,
Yeah,
an ice storm.
Yeah,
And we were on I was on a driveway that had a slight slope to it, just slight,
just enough.
And I couldn't get out of this place, man. And so the owner came out with a big old bag of salt, and he would shovel salt underneath the tire so I could get another 6 inches, almost a foot.
Wow.
And then he would shovel more, and we inched our way up his driveway until I was finally out of there. They're literally shoveling salt under the tire of the Russiagate thing. And it's all fake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally fake.
So, folks, we've got a lot of new listeners on the show. If this is the first time you're listening, much appreciated. This is Smith Radio, Military Veteran Talk Radio. My name is Brian Smith. I was in the Air Force during the 90s, and this is Carrie, my cousin, who was in the Marine Corps during the 90s. And we come at you with a different perspective, I believe. I don't know anybody who does what we do. We make it fun. We make it entertaining. At the same time, we expose all the fake news and the bias in the media, and we have fun with it. Right. So when you're done listening to the show, you're not going to be angry. You're not going to be upset. You're going to be like, wow, man, that has a big load off my mind.
Dude, I don't know where you get it from, Brian, but I feel like there was this audio that I heard a long time ago from Tony Robbins, and it was like this audio that was trying to teach the listener, whoever was listening to this audio, on how to deal with things that stress you out in life. And he was talking about being cut off in traffic. I'm sure you've heard it. And he said, instead of getting all angry and upset at this person cutting you off in traffic, instead, you should say, wow, I wonder what that guy is in such a hurry for. Like, what is he late for? Where is he headed to that is so important? And so I feel like we're both doing the same thing. When we see these crazy things that happen in the news, we're just kind of like, wow, I wonder what's going on in their lives that makes them behave the way that they're doing, or acting the way they're doing, or reacting the way they're doing. So there's a little bit more of a positive spin on it, in between the outrage.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a lot of answers to that. Some of the young youths that are being raised up in the news media are told that that's what they're supposed to. So they've already been brainwashed in the whole system. Yeah. They don't know no better. Just like if you run into somebody at work or down the street that just social justice warrior, you say Jesus Christ, or you say Donald Trump, or you say I love America, and they get triggered. Over the weekend, there was an article. I kind of threw it away. I didn't even want to bring it up. But apparently somebody murdered somebody over the weekend because of their flag. They were flying an American flag.
Oh, that's got to be
shot,
treason.
Something got beat up. Something
American flag?
Yeah.
That's got to be treason, right? I mean, you're shooting somebody for being an American?
You would think. So when you run into people like that, they have something that we have heard for a long time. And one of the first people who brought this up, I believe, was Mark Levin. But Mark Dice is running with it almost as a campaign model. But liberalism, it really is a debilitating mental disorder. Most people that get into the second and third stages of it, where you're using projection and you don't even know it, sometimes it's irreversible.
If they can call alcoholism or any kind of an addiction to a drug, or where you kind of act irrational, like a gambling addiction or something like that, there's this irrational behavior because of this subject. It could be this craving for alcohol or craving to go out and gamble or something. They're calling those diseases. Certainly, the behavior surrounding this belief system of liberalism, which is totally irrational, it just defies logic to believe in that ideology. It really does. And they say the same thing about our ideology. So, but the thing is when you start to examine each side, you start to realize that it is liberalism that is the mental disorder, and conservatism properly practiced, not like some of the purists and all this. They sometimes it can go overboard, but when properly practiced, conservatism is the ideology of logic,
Right.
whereas liberalism, progressivism, and communism, whatever you want to call it, it just defies logic. And so to go the way that they go, and they go all the way. They go all the way.
Full bore.
Where you got to just be like, are you listening to yourself? Are you hearing the words that are coming out of your mouth? And that's when you realize these people are clinically insane, or at least suffering from some sort of mental disorder.
Right. Well, it can get to the point to where you're full-blown, you're not recoverable, like a hard drive that's done crashed,
Oh,
or a hard drive that went through the DNC with a couple of hammers, things like that.
you've been hacked by the DNC.
Right. Or, like you're a Maxine Waters or something of that nature, to where it's gone so far that you just say things that words just fall out of your mouth and people question it, and you look right back at them. You say, no, I didn't say that. No, you did. You just said impeach Trump 45. And she looks at him and said, no, I never said that.
She did actually deny that, didn't she?
She denied it full board. And
Wow.
Tucker Carlson played the audio clip of her saying impeach Trump 45. He said, no, man, that wasn't me. It's somebody else.
Oh, I want to say a phrase that's very, very popular that I can't. Oh, I crack up laughing every time I hear it, but it's racist. It is racist.
But then you can't say it.
I can say it, and it's not racist. Pointing out, if I explain, have you heard the phrase "dindu"?
No, I haven't.
Come on, you've seen it.
Dindu.
DINDU.
Oh, I've seen it. Okay, I've seen it.
Dindu nothing.
Oh, yeah. Dindu. Dindu nothing.
It used to be Dindu nothing,
Right.
and then they abbreviated to Dindu.
Dindu.
It is kind of racist. But I crack up laughing.
Is it racist or is it cultural?
It is cultural, because the story I have where I saw somebody actually use the Dindu in actual practice. He was a white guy.
Oh,
And
cool.
and I've told you this story before, and it's been a long time since I've said this, so I'll go ahead and say it again. But Brian will remember this. I was coaching wrestling at Western Hills High School, and West High is largely considered by most of the people that know it to be, definitely, it's inner city public.
Right.
And it doesn't matter. It's really it's probably 60 to 70% black, which means 30 to 40% white. So it's it's got mixed cultures and all that. It's not just people say, oh, that's a black school. No, it's not. It never was. But it's, proportionally, probably majority black. But there's white kids that go to that school, and they, of course, are living in that culture. That's just the way. Not all of them, but there are some that are. And so I'm coaching wrestling, and it's after wrestling practice is over, and everybody goes out and waits for the bus, or some of them wait for their parents to come and pick them up. And I walk out, and there's a full-blown fist fight between one of our wrestlers and some kid. I didn't know who he was. He wasn't on the wrestling team. And I mean, they were swinging, they were running around, they were grabbing each other, and it was like full-blown, like full-on fist fight.
Wow.
And there were a couple other kids nearby that were obviously cheering on or watching because it was, entertaining to them.
Right.
And as I walk out, right behind me was a much higher-ranking administrator. I don't know if it was a principal, an assistant principal, or some sort of an administrator, whatever it was. They come out and they go, "Hey!" And my wrestler, hands off, backs up and said, "I didn't do nothing." And I was just like cracking up laughing because you were caught red-handed in a fist fight, hands off, didn't do nothing. Didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
So now if you're on Twitter, what they didn't do nothing is the phrase that people use. when a black person gets caught in doing something bad and it makes news.
Oh.
And then they throw out the dindu as a way of that's what they always say. So I think it's racist because it's always like what a white conservative usually is using whenever a black liberal ends up in the news having an accusation of doing something bad. So
I think the problem is that there's liberals always saying didn't do. And that was did do.
They did do.
They did do. They always do.
They did do something.
They did do. I'm telling you, something.
I don't know. So I want to explain that because some people that are maybe new to this show, I mean, I've never explained it before, but that's what the dindu is. You see, there are people who have avatars with the Santa Claus hat with the big white puffy, and then the red.
Yeah.
And then right across the white band, it says dindu.
No, come on, man.
That's a real popular one. So
come on.
But sorry if you like to use that phrase and you're insulted that I call it racist.
Or you just found out that maybe it means a little bit more than you thought it meant.
If it does, please DM me at Smith Radio and explain to me how I'm wrong. But I mean, it seems like a play on Ebonics.
Okay.
And, and when you start to make fun of people on the left, and it's mostly POCs, the people of color, and it involves the mockery of Ebonics, you're really dancing on a line.
Gotta be careful.
You're dancing on a line. I laugh, though, every time I see it, not because I'm racist, but because, I hate to admit that a lot of times there's some truth to it, but I mean, and I say not always though, not always.
Right.
So, but that's why I laugh. What do they say? Comedy is like absurdity with a lot of truth to it.
Oh, you've got elements of truth. That's the only way it's funny.
It's absurdity, but you laugh because you're like, it's true so many times.
Right.
That's the bad part. But anyway.
Just
so that's the Smith Radio explanation of dindu.
And we did find that there is a cure. There is a cure, breaking news, for liberalism.
Okay.
Chuck Norris's tears. However,
really?
Bad news.
Okay.
Chuck Norris does not cry.
Oh, so how does he have tears?
Well, I'm just saying, if he did, his tears would cure. Also cures cancer as well.
Wow.
Yeah. Good old Chucky. Anyways, folks, this year 2018 coming up. We're coming up on 2018 in just a couple of hours. And the prediction here from Smith Radio for 2018 is the year of the citizen.
Ooh. Nobody's brought that up. I'm going to have to give Brian credit for coining that. It's kind of interesting. Time magazine called Me Too the citizen of the year.
No, they didn't.
The man of the year.
I didn't see that. Oh.
The man of the year is Me Too, which you didn't know that?
So if you've been raped too, then you are now the man of the year.
Man of the year. Man of the year. Yeah.
So for everyone who has been assaulted and victimized by Bill Clinton, you have now been recognized.
Yeah. So hashtag man of the year. Hashtag Me Too.
Yeah.
They're pretty much saying that the big thing of this year was the Me Too movement. So it's kind of like, you got Weinstein comes out and he's just completely sexually assaulted massive numbers of people. And there's people who have also been sexually assaulted, but not by Weinstein. And they come out and say hashtag Me Too. And it turned into this explosion. And then there were men that came out and said, man, I was in Hollywood and I had somebody grab my package.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Folks, I lived in Hollywood and everything that you hear coming out of Hollywood, exponentially worse.
Oh, it's worse. I thought you were going to say absolutely true. You're saying true and worse.
It's true and worse. It's worse because it's the culture that's there. If you take for example, if the job that you work in or the family that you have, or the environment, your neighborhood that you live in. Think about the people that are around you. Do you talk? Are you friendly? Are you not friendly? At work, there's a lot of backstabbing or there's no backstabbing.
Right.
You think about the culture that you live in. Okay, that entire culture, the way that people interact and behave with each other. Well, you go to Hollywood and that culture there.
They got backstabbing?
Either put up or shut up.
Somebody got stabbed in the back.
Somebody getting stabbed.
Okay.
And you are the absolute puppet of whatever, because your life is in somebody else's hands. Your dreams, your hopes, your aspirations, they are in somebody else's hands, not your own. You're like, well, Brian, what if I work hard and I study hard and I become the best actor there ever was or the best screenwriter there ever was? Hey, that's fantastic. You can do that. It's up to somebody else.
That's interesting.
It ain't up to you.
At our Christmas party, we have this senior in college. I don't know exactly what the major is.
Now that you brought that up, I'm glad you did.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, I'm going to Hollywood. I'm going to be a screenwriter. So I'm like, oh, that's great. You should follow that dream and see where it ends up. But her father's best friend, who was there and trying to throw cold water on her dreams, was basically said something that was very true. You could have all the talent in the world. You could have all the best ideas. You'd be the smartest person. You'd be the most accomplished as far as education's concerned. But it's not going to be enough. And I agreed with him and I said, yeah, you're going to need to establish the proper network. And that's what Brian is just talking about, how it's not enough. You need to get the right people to pull the right strings for you.
Well, and if you have certain people in your network that you're more powerful than those people in your network, then you got a bad network. You have to have a network of people that are more powerful than you to make you have the rise and the come up, and then possibly they get the credit or they tag along the way.
Or they might see something. They may see something in you, or this is where it really gets bad.
Because they know you're going to have to do things they would never do.
Well, that's one thing, but also, like, for instance, I wish I could come up with a precise example right now, but like, let's say you're the daughter of somebody really powerful, and then you go to this person that you're networked to get a job as a screenwriter, let's say. That person who is your superior, I guess, in life, would say, wow, if I give her a shot, then I got an in on her father, who's a really powerful person. So that's where things get really corrupt, where everybody's just trying, giving people these opportunities because they have a backdoor somewhere else and all that kind of stuff. So, but there's a chance that you could network with the right people because you did catch their eye, because they saw something in you, like, oh, wow, I see potential in this person. I'm going to give this person their shot because they are going to take me to the promised land, like you were just saying. Right,
and I'm not saying don't give up in Hollywood if that's what you want to do. I'm just saying prepare yourself.
Because you're going to have to impress the right person.
Well, not only impress them, but you're going to have to do things that I personally would never, ever do. And that's fine. Maybe that's cool with you. For me, not so much. I'm just not that kind of guy. That just,
Yeah.
No.
And we're finding that out from Weinstein, that... if you want to be the person that gets the leading role, if it's between you and 4 other girls, let's say, or guy, whatever. In his case, girls. It seemed like he assaulted a lot of girls.
I'm trying to think of the former football player, big black guy with a bald head.
He's the one that got package checked.
Yeah, what's his name?
Oh, I could look it up real quick.
Oh, man.
Whatever.
Anyways, if he would have told on the executive that package checked him, he might not have a career.
Yeah, and he was actually, look, the guy was a former NFL player. He's not going to be chickened out.
He would crush you like an ant.
No, but like popularity-wise and fame-wise, he's not thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a nothing if I tell on this guy. No.
Well, if I tell on him, then people might think I'm of that persuasion, or I'm weak, or I'm feeble.
No, none of that is what he said. He said, because remember, he's already famous from the NFL. Oh, man, that's all I need is for my name to be in the headlines, beating the hell out of some gay guy at some Hollywood party.
Terry Crew.
Terry Crews, that's right.
Crews.
Terry Crews.
Yeah.
That was his rationale for not doing a thing after being package checked. Is that, oh man, that's all I need is for my name to be in the headlines, beating some big giant former NFL player, beating the ever-living crap, sending some gay Hollywood guy to, and apparently he was really powerful though. He was some dainty little feather, whatever, but he was like somebody who package checked guys because he knew that some people would be receptive to that because of his influence.
Now, I don't know, and I'm just throwing this out there just so you can kind of get a visual. But like the TV show Seinfeld.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the guy who helped co-write it,
Larry David.
Larry David. Yeah. If Larry David, and I'm not saying I have any evidence on Larry David. I'm saying if a guy the size of Larry David, a skinny, old, gray-haired, feeble, liberal.
He looks like somebody you could snap one of his limbs very easily.
And if he came up and package checked you, and you need a career, you better...
And he's really powerful.
You better look at him and smile.
Is that your suggestion? Is that your suggestion?
If you want Hollywood, I'm just giving you pointers. Me, on the other hand, I'm with Terry Crews, and I'm out. Audi 5000.
Yeah. No, and that was the thing. I mean, you went to Hollywood, and, you never told me about any propositions, but they definitely wanted you to behave a certain way.
They wanted you to, at the entry level, they wanted you to either, one, be an absolute fly in the wall, don't say a thing, don't do anything, be in the background, don't look at the kid, get him out of here, and then you're done. Or second, you could be the craziest cray-cray there ever was, and this is back when reality shows were getting big, and you could get on a reality show being a huge cray-cray. That's why the reality shows took off, because Hollywood found so many people living out there that were willing to absolutely go Jerry Springer when the camera came on. And they did.
And they liked that.
Right.
The producers liked that.
Right. The producers loved it. And they mix alcohol with it, get you fired up, get craziness going on. And then they call you back to use and abuse that. It's not a talent. It's you being an idiot. And you just can't. I mean, you could.
I've met few people that could make that craziness work.
Will Ferrell makes it work.
Yeah, but he does it in a controlled way. There's some people that are in like the out of control way. You're talking about reality TV, right?
Just anything in general. Like even, honestly, Tom Cruise has a very controlled, psychotic ability to go nuts in front of the camera with the flip a switch and then to turn it back off and not kill somebody.
Well, how about like Omarosa? She's the quintessential reality personality, and she had that it seemed like everything was always out of control, but somehow she ended up controlling exactly to the extent that got crazy. She controlled it, and that's why she was successful with it, in my opinion. But that was her talent, was to create chaos and then control it. She was in control of the chaos. And in a way, that's kind of what Trump saw in her when he originally decided to go with her. Because she shows up. She actually told us the story of how she got into reality, how she got onto The Apprentice, which was basically she showed up into the room and Donald Trump was there and they were doing the rehearsal. I don't know if it was rehearsal, but what do they call it? The casting. And she just went totally, like she did exactly what you would think would be the worst thing you could possibly do, which was basically like, I don't even want to be here.
Well, and then Al Pacino was and people didn't know this. Al Pacino was casting for a film. I don't know if we talked about this before.
Wasn't it Godfather?
And as they walked in, they didn't know that they were going to interview and that he was going to be the big star of the star of the star. And so as people would walk in, oh my gosh, and the starstruck come out and the drooling on yourself and the the inability to function properly, and then all of a sudden you're diagnosed with liberalism, and you're like, oh, you're stuck.
This sounds like the same story from that I heard with Robert De Niro when he was casting for
That's what it was.
Midnight Run.
Yes. We talked about this. Yeah.
Yeah, it was basically the guy, if you've seen the movie Midnight Run, the guy that played Marv, who was the other bounty hunter, they were basically competing against each other. When they were casting, Robert De Niro was the director, I guess.
Right.
And he was casting for the movie. And he brought in Marv. I can't remember his exact name, his real name, but Marv was the character's name. And he had just come off of 48 Hours. He was like the main sidekick to what's his name?
Charles Grodin.
No. That's not Charles Grodin. John Ashton.
Okay.
John Ashton was Marv.
Okay.
He was the other bounty hunter. So John Ashton was in 48 Hours. With Eddie Murphy. He was Eddie.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so he had already done 48 Hours, and now he's casting for Midnight Run.
He was the husky, bald, white cop versus the skinny, crazy cop. Yeah.
So he goes in there kind of with a chip on his shoulder, but he was behind several other people casting for his exact spot. And what Robert De Niro decided to do was, he was going to have the people walk in, and as he was handing them the script, he would not hand it to them in their hand. He would reach out with the script and then drop it before they got it. And everybody prior to John Ashton would say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and dive down and grab it and pick it up and say, "Sorry about that. Sorry." When
here's the thing, though. When you know, see, if you're in Hollywood long enough, and I got to give John Ashton props for this, but when you're in Hollywood long enough, there's a sense that you just know somebody's trying to have you, somebody's trying to get you, you're being had, and if you call it out in the right sense, which he did.
Yeah. So, let me explain what he did. So all these guys before him would hit the floor, grab it, and say, oh, sorry about that, Mr. De Niro, I'm sorry. So when John walked in, he dropped the script in front of him, and he looked down at the script, and then he looked back at Robert De Niro, and Robert De Niro just kept looking at him, like, you're gonna get that, right? And John looked back down at the script and looked back at, and then finally said, why don't you go beep yourself? He actually said that to Robert De Niro. And Robert De Niro was like, all right, you got the job. You got the job. So that was the whole thing.
Insanity, Sue. So, folks, we're talking about 2018.
And the Me Too.
Little bit.
The Me Too movement.
The Me Too movement. And we're trying to wrap up 2017, the greatest year that we can recall in history. Donald J. Trump, president, wrapping it up. A couple of hours away from now, 2018, to ring the bells in for the new year. Time magazine now calls out Me Too, the man of the year. Kind of creepy, kind of weird.
Yeah.
That's Time magazine. They're a bunch of goofballs. They put up there Donald Trump, man of the year, 2016, and right next to his name put
whatever they put.
Not Ununited States.
What
was it?
Divided States.
Divided States of America. And I'm like, They nailed it.
That is the narrative.
But they got it right.
They made the narrative. It has nothing to do with Trump other than that Trump is the subject of the narrative.
Right. And they're trying to call that America was divided because of Trump. No. But in reality, in order to divide the United States of America, the citizenry amongst ourselves, you must first call us out in different groups: Christian, non-Christian, black, white, Jewish, non-Jewish, poor, rich. You got to give everybody a label, and you say Polish American, African American, Jewish American, Irish American. You got to call somebody else other than an American. That's how you divide everybody. You get everybody to start doing that to each other.
Well, there's progressive leaders, which you see on TV. You got your CNNs, your Don Lemons, and all these people, your MSNBCs. These are the leaders, and all the politicians that run for the Democrat Party. These are the leaders who tell the sheep what to think, what to feel, what they're supposed to believe, what the narrative is. And the sheep were told that we are at war with the right. We're at war with anybody with an R on their name, and we're absolutely at war with Trump and everybody that supports him. So fall in line, sheep, and that's exactly what they told you. And if you are one of the sheep, one of the progressives that are just the peon voter people who have basically submitted your entire persons to that cause,
Right.
you are to do what they say, not as they do, and fall in line. And that is how the division happened. It didn't happen because of Trump. Trump was just the catalyst that they decided to pick. They picked the catalyst. The progressives picked him as the catalyst.
Just like they picked John McCain. Just like they picked
Well-
Mitt Romney.
Well, here's the thing. They picked
folks.
them. There was no division with McCain because when Cunningham went up in front of that giant crowd in Cincinnati and said, "Here's the man running against Barack Hussein Obama, John McCain." So John McCain comes out and says, that's not right. We shouldn't be calling people by their actual name. And that's just divisive. And we shouldn't be dividing America the way Bill Cunningham is doing. We need to be nice to the person who is going to be selected, the next president, and not be mean to him and call him by his birth name, Barack Obama, with the H and that H word.
Oh,
We shouldn't say
no.
that. That's literally what happened.
I know you were there, weren't you?
No,
No?
hell no, I didn't go to that one. I didn't know it was going to be such a disgusting thing. But yeah, Billy Cunningham got totally undermined by. Gosh, I would have went back up on stage, grabbed that mic, and said, "You know what? I'm out of here, and I think everybody else in this crowd should be out of here too," and walk out.
Right.
So there was no division with the progressive selected John McCain or the progressive selected Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
It wasn't division. They were all hands on deck to make sure that Barack Obama was elected and reelected
Right.
during those times. Now, when Trump comes along, the new narrative that the progressives have distributed out to the sheep is to make sure that we're divided. And go to war.
Completely 100% divided, not united. This is not the United States of America. It's the divided States of America. Whites hate blacks. Blacks hate whites. Poor people hate rich people. Rich people hate poor people. The middle class, you are the big giant goose egg. You're the biggest loser. And we're all going to hell in a handbasket. However, if you vote Democrat, we'll have a good time. We'll get you liquored up on the way to hell.
We'll have a gay old time.
We'll have a gay old time on the way to hell.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So Trump just 2017 completely turns that upside down on its head. Every single news cycle, folks. It is just absolute pandemonium and insanity. We do this show every Sunday evening, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern. So we have a whole week to prepare for the show. The news cycle, the news narrative daily is angry, hate, vitriol. It's Trump is dumb. Russia's got it. He's Russia's puppet. And this is just, he's lying to you. He's stealing. He's cheating. Everything's just awful. 96% of the news media outlets, all news against Trump, negative news.
Yeah, and they're wondering why he has, what is it, like a 40% approval rating or whatever.
Speaking about
which
that,
we think is fake. We don't think is real. He had that kind of approval rating when he was elected president.
okay, December 28, 2009. It's the end of Obama's first year. His approval rating with the love and admiration of Chris Matthews that threw out my leg. The love and but folks, we don't forget this. We got it in mind like a steel trap. The love and admiration of the glorious O, bruh. I mean, she goes by O now. It's not Oprah anymore. It's O.
Okay.
It's got her own show. O. I mean, it's just what it is. So at the end of Obama's first year, he had a 47% approval rating. December 28th.
Okay.
Fast forward to right now, December 28th was a couple days ago.
Okay.
Donald J. Trump. 46% approval rating. It's
So-
almost exactly like Obama, approval, disapproval, almost identical. Obama does get the love and admiration from every single news outlet. Donald Trump gets the absolute hate and anger from all the news outlets.
So you have to grade on a curve.
Well, New York Times and Washington Post, one of the awful newspapers said, I think it was Politico. Oh, so you think the approval ratings were the same? Let me set the record straight. And they went into the poll numbers and how the poll numbers are wrong or skewed and how they cherry pick the poll numbers coming from Fox and Friends in the morning who absolutely adore Trump.
What? So they're trying to make the argument that the numbers should be backwards because of the amount of positive press that Trump's getting?
No, they're saying that Trump cherry-picked the greatest fake poll number to compare himself to Obama, when in reality, our numbers show that Donald Trump is actually dead right now. That's our numbers. They show that. According to an analyst that we saw, that Trump is not even actually alive anymore.
Well, they're trying, just to let you know, if you're new to this, they're trying to get you to believe on an individual basis. Imagine each individual person, they're in their living room, they got the CNN on, or they're on the internet and they're looking at mainstream media through the internet.
No, they're at a bank. Bank of America. They're at Bank of America and the giant 66-inch flat screen of CNN playing 24/7.
Or an airport where everybody's traveling for the holidays and everything like that. So as you're watching this on an individual level, without people discussing amongst each other or anything like that, they're trying to paint the picture in each individual mind, yours included, that the idea of Trump getting impeached is probably a good thing because everybody hates him. He's got, he really wouldn't have been elected if it wasn't for the Russian government making sure that he did get elected. And that's not American. And so this is the fake picture they're painting in your head. That way, what they're trying to do is set the stage so that when they do something crazy like that, like draw up articles of impeachment, that you will accept it. It's funny because notice how, let me give you a comparison. The day before Moore was lost the election, I guess, in Alabama, we all knew that at best the accusations against him were highly unsubstantiated.
Correct.
At worst, they were all completely made up, totally lied about. The day after he loses election, everybody's like, you see, you can't be putting pedophiles up there to get elected for Republican senator spots. And it's like, wait, you do know that all those accusations were fake. And if he did lose because of the accusations, that's an indictment on the people who are absorbing this news.
Right.
Because it's at best completely unsubstantiated at best, because we know for a fact that some of the details of the accusers were in fact falsified.
And now?
For sure.
And now it's over?
Yeah, they're gone.
They're gone.
Nobody's attacking Moore anymore.
Gloria Allred has dropped her client and has moved on to the other client against Donald Trump and is suing Donald Trump in New York.
That should say a lot right there.
Yeah.
This isn't about whether or not Moore sexually assaulted somebody or even conducted questionable practices of dating or anything, because the second remember Harry Reid he was asked why he lied and made up stuff about Mitt Romney's tax returns after Mitt Romney lost. And they were like, you did make that up, right? I mean, we know you made it up. You lied about that. And he said, well, it worked, didn't it? He literally said that. A moment of brief truth comes out of Harry Reid. So you guys got to stop falling for the lies. I mean, if you look at the Harry Reid thing, you look at what they're trying to do to Trump, and you look at the fact, if you stop and stop trying to de facto or post facto be on the winning side and say, see, I told you we shouldn't have elected Moore to the prime, or we shouldn't have had Moore. We should have backed Strange or something like that. Stuck with Strange. Guys, you fell for it. I'm sorry to say you fell for it.
Yeah.
And now that you're actually making their case by saying that, you see, I was never for more. I was never for him. You're basically giving them the green light to do this
Again.
from here on out.
Yeah.
Not just again, every time.
Yeah.
You're giving them the green light. What you need to do is say, damn it, you people in Alabama, you got to be stronger than that. You've got to be, and everybody else, I'm not talking about just Alabama. This could happen in your state, any state. You name the state, it's going to happen. It just so happens that it was Alabama this time. But it's going to happen in your state. It's going to happen in Ohio. Luckily, I mean, we have a woman running for governor, but we also have, she's the only woman. There's other people running for governor that are men.
But don't think women are immune. There are Democrat women that have had to step down because they either hid, lied, or were in cahoots with some type of sexual misconduct.
Yikes. Well, Mary Taylor's the one running for governor in Ohio, amongst other men.
Right. And
she's come out when we did a lunch with her a couple weeks ago, and she basically denounced anybody who has accusations like that on them, and basically said that women need to be heard and listened to and all this. And I understand where she's coming from. It actually works to her benefit that there are accusations out there and that she's a woman, and the odds of her having accusations of sexual misconduct in the workplace are low, because it is low for any woman compared to men. Right. So it works in her favor, but she's playing with fire there.
Yeah, you're going down the wrong road, sister.
Yeah, it concerned me. It concerned me when she came out with that kind of stuff. But hopefully we don't let the liberals do to every single Republican running out there what they did to Moore in Alabama. Right,
and they're gonna, because you're a Christian, because you're a conservative, because you're a Republican. Well, I'm not a Christian. I'm not a conservative. So, yeah, of course I ran around on my wife. I never claimed that was. I mean, you get mad. I'm a Democrat. Why you get mad at me for running around my family? I don't care.
Wiener's in prison, I think.
So. Yeah, Wiener's in prison.
You know he's going to end up with. Is he actually in jail right now as we speak? Because I feel like he's going to end up getting
slip. He's going to get
slip out of there.
Well, here's the thing. The thing is that the Democrats are always going to stick it to you. Say, well, you claim to be a Christian, moral, and on a high ground.
They're using it against you.
Right. Yeah. And I've had people on Twitter just bash me left and right. Well, you're the one who calls yourself a Christian. You better get yourself right with God, not me. There ain't no God. What?
Don't let people,
what's wrong with you, man?
Don't let people who don't even believe in God, don't believe in Christianity, they're not Christian at all, tell you how to live a Christian life.
Yeah.
That's not up to them. They're trying to use the hypocrisy card on you. And you shouldn't let them get away with it. It's as simple as that.
So, folks, we're talking about 2018, just a few hours away. This is the year of the citizen that we're talking about, 2018, the year of the citizen.
I wanted to talk about that. Yeah,
because of Donald J. Trump's election in America. America is that shining beacon on the hill, letting everyone know that freedom does exist somewhere, or at least people somewhere are fighting for freedom and actually have a chance to win, unlike those in Iran.
Yeah, let's talk about Iran for a second.
If you're in Iran right now, many prayers. It's going to be bad. It's going to be awful, because you are facing a tyrannical dictatorship type government that is led and hell-bent on enforcing Islam, Sharia law, that type of lifestyle at gunpoint. I mean, they're shooting innocent protests. When the government shoots and kills peaceful, in the sense that they're not throwing rocks, they're not violent.
Well, tell everybody what happened, because look, guys, I'm recovering from being bedridden for the most part, and Brian's up to speed a lot more on this Iran thing. So, and then, the holidays that happened, we got New Year's, we got family at home. There's a lot of people that have just been totally away from the news altogether. What exactly happened there?
Well, a couple of days ago, there's the citizenry started to take to the streets and started to protest the government. Well, it depends on who you ask. If you ask CNN actually, if you look at the picture up there, CNN says, why is this happening? The protests, which began Thursday night, are a reaction to the sputtering economy, rampant corruption, and rising fuel and food prices. Okay. CNN. Oh, and folks, by the way, mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, New York Times, all of them. Not only that, Bill Clinton, Obama, name them all. Every Democrat there ever was, silent on the uprising in Iran, of the oppression of the government to the people being oppressed for the last, I'm going to say 30 plus years. There's one woman who is been outspoken, and in the midst of the fog and amidst the smoke and everything, she's standing on a table with her arm in the air, in solidarity to the people. And she told a story on Twitter saying that this is a picture of my mother back in the 70s when Islam took over and Islam took women. And before that revolution, if you will, pre-Islam, there were just pictures of women like you might be here in America somewhere, just hanging out, just doing whatever, just enjoying life.
Dressed like a Westerner is basically what you're saying.
Right, shorts and T-shirt, sunglasses.
Like showing skin?
Yeah, showing some skin, showing some ankle.
Outside of just the face?
Yeah, no screens, no head garb, no nothing.
Interesting.
Even local, newspaper articles, newspaper advertisements of women advertising clothing. It'd be like something you see at J.C. Penney or Macy's or something here in America.
Wow.
Well, the takeover of Islam, takeover of the government. I'm not sure if it's the Ayatollah Khomeini that was installed back then. That dude's got to be pretty damn old by now.
He seemed like he was old back then.
Right. No, definitely. And then we saw during Obama's era, Mahmoud did a whack job, who was running, but pretty much the Ayatollah Khomeini kind of pretty much says what you will and will not do. And that's the religious leader. And that's what we get into, folks. Communism, Islam, identical ideologies that do nothing more than suppress and enslave the citizenry. And that's what's been going on in Iran for the last 30 plus years, suppressing the people, suppressing women's rights, forcing them to dress in headgear and garb. The young lady's about our age, the very young woman is about our age. And she told of a childhood. She said, this is a picture of me before. And as she was a little girl, and she's just a regular little girl in a T-shirt and shorts. And she said, this is a picture of me after they came in. And it's a little girl with the headgear and the garb, the Islam. And that's how Islam spreads, folks. Islam spreads out of fear. Most people are Islamic. Oh, Islam has 5 billion people around the world, and billions of people are Islamic. It's a revolution. No, the majority of people that say they're Islamic or claim to go through the motions of practice because they don't want to die. You will be slaughtered.
Or oppressed, big time. Like you have to submit to the will of Allah and all this kind of stuff. And they take it so, it's like extremism because they take it all the way to the most extreme.
Unless you're in Iraq, where Donald Trump has absolutely destroyed ISIS. ISIS is just absolutely on their knees, destroyed, being removed, and Christians in Iraq celebrating Christmas for the first time. I would not want to be a Christian anywhere in the world but America, because even here, we're pretty cool to be Christian. I mean, it's okay. I mean, people might make fun of you or whatever, but you're not going to lose your life here.
Right. And, we're so tolerant that if you came here as a Muslim, and I have a Muslim friend, and, you're not being persecuted, you're not being prevented from doing anything, you just might, at this point, get some funny looks. Only if you wear your Islam on your sleeve, I guess, because
if you go to the local pool, we have a park down the way here, and at the park they have this. It's not a swimming pool, but it's a big giant water fountain and water squirting everywhere, and boats and water guns for the kids and everything.
Guns. What?
But the water comes out.
Oh, water. Guns.
Water only.
Yeah.
And so these folks showed up. The husband shows up, and it's the middle of summer, so it's hot, 90 degrees and 500,000% humidity. And the husband shows up in a t-shirt and shorts and flip-flops, and that's normal because we're all hot. And the wives are walking behind these two gentlemen, and the wives had the complete black garb from head to toe.
Okay.
With the screen door across the eyes.
Okay.
In the middle of the summertime.
Yeah, and you would only, obviously, you're going to get funny looks because
yes!
That's kind of, to me, that's silly. I don't care what.
Not only silly, that's quite insane. You could have a heat stroke and die.
I guess if you aren't hydrated very well and you're wearing all black.
IJS. I'm just saying.
Okay. Well, so you're going to get funny looks that way, but like if you were to walk on an aircraft like that, you might get some funny looks, but you're not going to, you're not going to be hauled off and arrested. You have to actually do something.
And you can convert to Christianity here in America without any kind of retribution.
Or not without any retribution. So that's the thing about America, is that you have that kind of freedom that they don't allow in some other places, it seems like. And you legitimately have a real serious threat of being killed as a non-Muslim in certain parts of the world. Absolutely real threat. And including in America. You got people who will drive a truck into a crowded thing in New York City or whatnot. Or what do they got? The subway bomber?
Yeah.
Luckily, thank God.
Got himself melted.
Yeah, he messed it up or something was wrong and it blew up in a spot where there weren't hardly any people. But he was trying to get to the most crowded area during the most crowded time in order to maximize casualties. And, if he knew, this is the thing. People say, well, that's just random. You don't have a higher probability of getting killed because you're Christian. That was random. But if he knew that you were Christian, he would definitely target you.
Yes.
100%. If you were wearing like a big cross or something around your neck or something like that, something to indicate that, oh, that guy's definitely Christian.
What was the one school shooting where the kid at the front of the schoolroom in the classroom, something, and asked if anybody was a Christian?
That was Columbine.
No, asked them if they were Christian.
Yeah, Columbine.
Okay.
It was Columbine.
And when they spoke up and said I was a Christian.
Do you believe in God? And the little girl said, yes, I believe in God, and shot her right in the head.
Right.
Yeah, that was Columbine.
Who else believes in God? I tell you what, the second person says yes, oh, you're automatically going to heaven because that takes a lot of balls. To watch somebody just get shot in the head, and now you're next?
Boy, that's a tough one.
That's a tough call. As a Christian, you got to say, yep, that's me.
Yikes.
Anyways. So Trump tweets out, because that's the way Trump can get our attention. That's the way he can get the information to us, because the mainstream media sure ain't doing it. I mean, there's been a blackout of media in Iran. There's been a blackout of the media of these protests that are just uprising. So Trump tweets out, big protests in Iran. The people are finally getting wise as to how their money and wealth is being stolen and squandered on terrorism. Looks like they will not take it any longer. The USA is watching very closely for human rights violations. Well, I hope you are watching, because the government is now shooting people in the streets.
Really? You want to elaborate on that? So they were doing these protests, and I remember a couple days ago, and I would have never known about this if it wasn't for Jack Posobiec just flat out tweeted it, and he was pretty much slapping the face of mainstream media, because he was like, "Hey, I'll tweet this. Why isn't the mainstream media covering this?" And right. I picked up on that, like, wow, this is happening in Iran. The woman who took off the head covering and was swinging it around or whatever.
Right.
I mean, that was shocking to me, because I figured you're absolutely not allowed to do that in Iran.
No, you're not. You'll get lashed.
Or shot.
Sure. Yeah.
So you're saying that the protests were growing, and then finally the government said, hey, how do we put a stop to this? Let's just start shooting everybody.
Yeah, violent eruptions, similar to Venezuela. I mean, folks, we talk about these regimes all the time. The communists, the dictatorships, they call it socialism. They slip right into communism, dictatorship, same as Venezuela. I mean, Iran's been awful, awful, brutal for decades. And now we're seeing the people, the citizenry rise up. I don't know if you heard about in Saudi Arabia. Similar thing happened a few years ago, but that was crushed immediately because the usual suspects were rounded up and murdered. That's just what they do in Saudi Arabia. You can't vacation there. You can't visit there. Once you're there, you probably pretty much can't even leave.
Well,
So these are both similar regimes, though. Iran, Saudi Arabia, very similar, very Islamic, very
well, you brought up
controlling.
Venezuela, and I would like to point out, for those that don't remember, some people listening right now is probably like, what is Brian talking about? First, he's talking about these Islamic states in the Middle East. Then he throws out Venezuela. That's not even Islamic. We're talking about communism. Well, we've learned initially from Trevor Loudon, and then
who was on the show
twice.
Just recently, one of the shows, I believe it was in September, October.
Whatever it was. Whenever we had Trevor Loudon on. But, here we go.
Yeah, right,
it was June. Oh, I thought it says London. I thought it said Loudon. Okay. So whenever we had him on, so Trevor Loudon pointed out, and he did it the first time, and I actually didn't believe it. I almost was arguing with him. I was just kind of like, really? When he talked about the similarity, if not pretty much he was saying it was the same thing.
And I asked him, I said to him, hey, I've been having this thought. There's some similarities. Does Islam and communism, I'm trying to find this parallel. I'm trying to find where they meet.
Thing.
Yes!
He said, forget parallel. They're the same thing. And I was like, really? Because I've been studying, first of all, I'm like pretty much the professor when it comes to the Cold War.
Love it.
And so I've learned a lot about communism through my studying of the Cold War and, the origins of it. And also Mark Levin has wrote several books talking about how communism has actually been around for thousands of years. You just don't know about it. He walks you through where communism really has its origin. So I know a lot about communism. And I'm learning as much as I can about Islam, but I just thought of them as two separate entities that were doing two separate things and two separate beliefs and all this. And Trevor Loudon's like, no, they're the same thing. Well, fast forward to, I was watching some documentaries. Turns out I was watching a documentary that called Muhammad and his time on Earth alive when he was, writing the Quran and all this kind of stuff. They called him the first social justice warrior.
SJW in the house.
And that's when I was like, I'll be damned. Trevor Loudon was right. And I guarantee you that in his studies of Islam, that he had learned that and realized, oh my God, this is the same thing. This is the same ideology.
Well, and when you talk about communism and Islam, just on the surface, if you haven't studied either one of them, you're like, no, Brian, no, Trevor, no, Carrie. Islam is a religion. Communism's not a religion. Carrie, communism, where does the religion in the communist regime come from?
Well, it's called atheism. And for those of you atheists out there that are probably going to be screaming at their radio or their Periscope right now.
Blood shooting out of your eyes.
You got blood shooting out of everywhere. Everywhere. Atheism is absolutely a religion. I actually made a YouTube video. It's very short. It's like 4 minutes long. Where I do the proof. I prove that atheism is a religion. If you'd like to look it up, it's on a channel that I believe only has 1 or 2 videos. Because I made this channel. This was back in my days where I felt like anonymity was extremely important.
And you could do that on the internet.
You could still do it, but
whatever.
So I created.
Somebody's gonna dox you.
So I created a channel called "Don't Believe Atheism," and it's all one word, no spaces. Don't Believe Atheism. That's the name of the channel. And in that channel, there's a video called "Atheism is a Religion." Proof. Go ahead and watch that. And I walk through how atheism is absolutely a religion. And so it turns out communists, if you know anything about communism, you know about Karl Marx, the Marx Engels Communist Manifesto. They hate all religion. They think religion is the problem. And so communism, almost by definition, if you go by the Communist Manifesto written by Marx and Engels, atheism is a requirement to be a communist, and so therefore you are an atheist as a communist. But when you stop and realize, when you watch my proof and you really stop and think about it, communism is a very devout religious form of government.
Right.
That is devout atheism.
Yeah, you wind up praying to and believing in and submitting to the government for all your needs, your health, your safety, your security, everything. Your entire existence is dependent upon the government's existence, and vice versa. Same with Islam. Identical with Islam. What makes America different? Separation of church and state, not separation from, but just the separating of the government and religion. Founding fathers like, man, no, you can't have that. You cannot have, you could, but it's not a healthy government form to have a government that institutes one single religion. Whether they knew that it would lead to, they didn't have the word communism, but to lead to a communist ideology, whether they knew that or not, I have no idea, but they had divine intervention, if nothing, at the very bare minimum.
Mark Levin points out that the founders, even though Marx and Engels wrote the Communist Manifesto in the 1850s, the founding fathers would have been well aware of the utopianism.
Because it's Socrates and Plato.
Plato's Republic, they obviously would have read that. Hobbes's Leviathan was... the way Mark Levin worded it was perfect. These stories, these books that were written hundreds and sometimes thousands of years prior, have the germs of Marxism all over them.
Right.
So if you look at Plato's Republic, he tries to create this utopia. So basically all communism is an attempt to create a utopia through these certain principles of not having to bow down to some religion, and that the state can create the utopia for you, and all this kind of stuff. So you end up with the point is that the founders knew about these utopias, and there's a book called the Utopia. Excuse me. Utopia comes from the book where Utopus is the leader of the island of Utopia. And it's an attempt to create what we know of utopia today is what was being attempted to be created in the island of Utopia. This book was written
1516, published in 1516.
Yeah, the founders would have read that. Our founders were extremely educated. In fact, if you look at the Federalist Papers, they refer back to all these philosophers. So they read all of the philosophies. They were trying to create a self-governing country where the main principle was freedom and liberty for each individual. These founders read all these books. They were trying to avoid having a centralized state that tried to create a utopia. They knew about this stuff. And you got Marx and Engels, like the Johnny-come-lately of utopia.
Right.
And they write the Communist Manifesto. The founders knew about this. And, my critique of the founding of America prior to learning of all this stuff was, damn it, I wish they knew about communism. Because if they knew about communism, they would have made sure that the Constitution was written in a way that would have defended us from it. And it is true that not enough was done. I really truly believe that. I truly believe that not enough was done in our Constitution to save us from communism. However, a lot was done to prevent a centralization of power, and I think that a lot was done to our Constitution since our founding to undermine it. Like, for instance, we were supposed to have the individual states having the most power, and the centralized federal government was supposed to be very weak and kind of beholden to the whims of each individual state and didn't have the power over the states. It wasn't until the Civil War and after the Civil War was over that they started to change that around to where they took a lot of power away from the states and started giving it to the federal government. So the original founders would not have approved of that.
No.
And now we see the damage done. You got Obamacare, you have the Federal Reserve, you have Social Security. Our founders would have been like, what the hell happened? It's because of the Civil
thing
War.
gone off the rails.
Yeah, I think what would have one of two things could have happened that would have made America completely foolproof. If either A, slavery was never introduced by the British when we were colonies.
British, Portuguese.
Well, when the British made the decision to start to send slaves to the
Americas.
If that never happened, that may have saved us. Or, and this would have been a lot tougher, if they could have abolished slavery at the founding.
However, we know looking back,
They couldn't.
They couldn't.
They couldn't.
However, they knew that they knew if we get it together, we can win our independence, move on, and then take another stab at that beast at another time.
And they did.
Yeah, and they did it. We did. It worked out.
It took 100 years, but it did happen. It did happen.
And so I'm looking up The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith.
They read that book too.
I feel like a fool. I did not realize it was first originally published March 9th, 1776.
Yeah, there was a revolution going on there. Big time. I think
oh, my goodness.
You look at Wealth of Nations.
Like an Enlightenment period.
Yeah, and also the French Revolution. There was just a lot of stuff going on that the founders were a lot. The world was changing right around that time, and I think our founders basically got it right. They got it as right as they could have gotten it. The original sin of slavery was something that really threw a wrench in the whole program, and we are suffering to this day because of it. But mainly because leftists are using it as a way to destroy the country.
Right.
Whereas we're trying to just be like, guys, we abolished slavery, let's move on. But yeah, what are you gonna do?
Well, and you got the dirty deeds of the evil left. Right. They do what they do. They grab onto what they can grab onto, and they never let go. Especially if they feel like it may be working, or if somebody tells them, "I think it's working." It's like a child that's been spoiled, and they've been spoiled for decades. Take a child that's been spoiled every day of his life for 10 years. The kid's 10 years old now, and tell him no. See how well that works out. Now we're dealing with a Democrat Party that's been doing this for centuries.
But we're telling them no. And
we're telling them no now.
Trump is, it's interesting because there's a lot of different ways you can see this in action. But he's the first politician since I don't even know when, long before I was born. Maybe Reagan. Maybe Reagan. I'm not sure. But he's the first politician that I am aware of that's be able to look at both the citizens and those in power and say, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to continue with free health care called Obamacare. And it's not free anyway. They just lied to you and said that.
Right.
Like, no is what we needed for a long time, and we're finally getting it. And we needed a Trump to be able to say that. He's as Milo Yiannopoulos calls Trump Daddy.
Daddy Trump. Get behind Daddy.
Yes. And in a way, that kind of sums up a lot of it. It's like, listen to Daddy. Daddy knows best. And there's probably leftists out there who are throwing up right now.
Just triggered.
Totally triggered.
But you got to understand, it's like children have been running amok for decades.
It's like Lord of the Flies around.
Yes, it's like Lord of the Flies.
Now killing each other.
All of a sudden, paratroopers drop out of the sky. I'm like, oh my God, what are you guys doing here? And then everybody looking around like, nothing to see here. Everything's fine. There's no problems. We're okay.
Oh my gosh.
That's
not working.
That's not working. So what we've got in front of us in 2018, the year of the citizenry around the world, people fighting for their freedoms, people fighting to be left alone, unsuppressed, unmaligned. And as Paul Joseph Watson said in his last video, that apparently he's been sick for a month, and he came out with a 4-minute little clip.
That's the difference between Paul Joseph Watson and us. We're sick right now.
Sick, still doing it.
How many times have you heard me mute myself while I try to cough off to the side? I'm doing it.
I still hear the cough.
I'm doing it for you.
That's how bad the cough is. I hear it through the mute.
Damn it.
That's all good.
We need to have a firewall here so we could be isolated, audio isolation.
Michael Jordan's greatest single game.
No, he was sick.
101 to 102 temperature.
Okay.
During the game.
Okay.
Single greatest game. One of the greatest games of all time.
Everybody was staying away from him. They're like, oh man, I don't want to catch what he's got. So they're not even defending him.
Brett Favre single-handed greatest game ever. Effortless effort, not the highest scoring, just the most effortless, greatest game Brett Favre ever had. The day after his dad died.
So you're saying bad.
I'm just saying.
Bring out the best.
Sometimes,
because I'm like
those bad things that happen. Sometimes the switch just flips.
Okay.
And it forces you into the zone, and you're just like, you know what? I'm just going to do what I've been practicing all my life. I'm just going to go out and just do it. That's it. That's just it. Single greatest show ever, Smith Radio.
I don't recommend going out in 102 degree
giving each other pneumonia.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, folks, we're here doing this for you. Paul Joseph Watson came out with a 4-minute video. Said he's been sick for a month. God bless you. Rest up and get back. And he said that we've got a lot of work for us coming 2018 because half of the Utes, 50% of the Utes.
This is bad.
50. Half.
Of the Utes. What do you mean Utes? Like millennials?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're cool with living in a communist country. That's cool.
You know what's been on CNN? At night, I didn't know this until we picked up on. We're stuck with cable for 90 days. It was for those of you that have heard me a million times before tell you I cut the cable. Just to let you know, I haven't lifted my boycott. They gave us an offer we couldn't refuse. I get higher speed, much higher speed internet if I do the whole bundle, same price. And I'm like, how long do I got to be stuck with this for? 90 days. I can cut the cable again. So for an offer I couldn't refuse, I'm stuck with cable for 90 days. And I'm in that. And I'm probably halfway through the 90-day period right now. So at nighttime, did you know? Now, you know when you click on Fox News.
Right.
They have the shows. And then real late at night, they repeat them one time. And then the morning shows come on early in the morning, whatever.
Right.
CNN has shows in the middle of the night. They don't replay their news in the middle of the night. They have these shows. Well, what they've been playing...
I'm kind of shocked that they actually do.
It's kind of
interesting. Because nobody watches them during the day. How do they think they're going to get aired at night?
Well, because when I saw what was on, I was like, oh, I want to see that.
Okay.
It was a documentary series. It's like a whole bunch of 2-hour, 1-hour series episodes of the 80s documentary.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, I got to watch this. If CNN knew what they were airing, they probably wouldn't do it. It was like a love fest of conservatism and family ties.
Yes!
Ronald Reagan.
Yes!
All this stuff.
You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I will say this, CNN, is it CNN Business? CNN Money.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's Headline, too. CNN owns Headline News.
CNN Money.
Okay.
They actually like Trump.
That's so... Well, I mean, it makes sense if they're being honest about the money economic situation.
The articles that came out here at the end of the year, very excited about Donald Trump and CNN Money.
Oh, well...
Shocked.
I'm not surprised. So they're counteracting that with the regular CNN coverage.
Yeah, the daily barrage of hate and vitriol and lies and Don Lemon going postal. Don Lemon went postal the other day, folks, if you didn't know. Don Lemon went absolutely postal because one of the guests that he had on the show started talking about what really went down in 2017. And Don Lemon started screaming at him and said, "Hey, why do you conservative always go email, Benghazi, Uranium One? You don't let it go. You just don't." And the guy, Don, I didn't say anything about Benghazi or Uranium One. Why you bring that up, man?
Yikes.
I'm just saying. So CNN's having some conservative airings at nighttime?
Well, I mean, it's a show, it's a documentary, but it's about the 80s, and I'm not 100% sure if it was produced by CNN or not, but I do know that there was a segment on the founding of CNN that they kind of focused in on, so it kind of makes me wonder if it was actually produced by CNN, and they showed Ted Turner and how he did it back in the 80s and how they only had like 1 million viewers and all this kind of stuff. And they were the rogue outcast. He was battling against ABC, NBC, CBS and making fun of them and all the stuff that they were doing to try to get viewers. And they were the first ones where if there was if there was news of national importance, like one of the first things that got them going back in the 80s was some young child, very young child, fell into a water well.
Oh, yes.
They were the first ones.
I remember that.
CNN was the first ones to go wall-to-wall coverage on that, whereas other news outlets would break in periodically to give you an update. They just went wall-to-wall. They didn't stop.
Right.
And so that was where they started getting actual real viewership where they wanted to see.
Well, and then you had Desert Storm.
That was the thing that sent them stratospheric because they actually had
embedded.
They embedded them there, and there was they showed the Berlin Wall falling and how they had actual embedded journalists doing these interviews with East German officials and Soviet officials that would come and do a press conference and how it made news. And I was just like, this is a conservative freedom lover's wet dream.
And now it's gone completely into a bridge above him.
Well, they have. Yeah, absolutely. They're trying to rally against. It's just amazing when you look at the fall of communism. So the reason I brought this up was you gotta watch this documentary when we talk about how 50% of millennials today would be okay with living under communism. One thing they showed, they made this a focal point in this 80s documentary, that people were risking their lives to cross the border. We're talking about the Berlin Wall between East Berlin and West Berlin. This was the quintessential divide between, it was the Iron Curtain between the East and the West, or the Soviets and the West.
I mean, it was literally capitalism versus socialism, or communism.
Yeah.
Communism versus capitalism.
One thing, I started thinking to myself, how can they show this and at the same time on their real CNN show be giddy about reporting how 50% of millennials would prefer to live under communism? And the reason why they believe this, the reason why they were able to get the percent up so high, is because of their own reporting. Meanwhile, when they show a documentary about the 80s, these people they were like, communism actually existed. And people were risking their lives. They even did a short little segment on this guy who was, gosh, I missed the part of what they said he was there, but he was in East Germany. He was from West Germany or from America or something. And he was allowed to travel back and forth. And this man with a young daughter said, "Can you please take me over?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can take you over. I have a young daughter." And he's like, "Whoa, oh my God. So I'm taking 2 people over now." "Yes. Can you take me to freedom?" And he was like, "Oh, I didn't know I was getting into this. All right, I'll do it."
So 2 guys and 2 young daughters.
Yeah, the guy had freedom to go across the border because of his job.
Right.
Like he was some sort of, I don't know if it's military or if it's some official or whatever. He was allowed to cross the border. The other guy was just a citizen of East Germany. And his daughter, and he was with his daughter. And he was like, all right. And he knew that if he was caught, he would probably end up in jail. The man and the daughter knew 100% they would be in the jail gulag.
Gulags. Probably death.
Yeah, but he said, you know what? I think it's worth it. They went through it. They went through this long, drawn-out story of them crossing the border and how the Border Patrol was walking around the car and they were holed up in the trunk. All they had to do was pop the trunk and game over. And they were popping the trunk on most vehicles to make sure that there was no contraband, no people trying to escape. They were looking under cars. They had dogs sniffing and all this stuff. And the guy just kept staring right at the guard, and the guard stared back at him. And at one point, he was just like, okay, so am I free to go? And he gave him a smile, and he's like, you're good to go. And they got out the freedom, and they were practically in tears. And I'm watching all this, and I'm like, are the millennials, where's the disconnect here? And then it dawned on me. In this documentary, they never exactly point out that these illegal crossings are all happening in one direction, and they're not telling the viewer what direction it's going.
That the people are leaving communism, escaping
communism, and coming to freedom on the
capitalism.
West. They're not
capitalism.
They're
running with open arms to capitalism.
Now, we lived under communism. We were alive all the way up into high school when the Berlin Wall was up, enforced. People were getting shot trying to cross it, killed, murdered. And if you got caught and not killed, you were put in a gulag until you died of starvation or you were worked to death, literally. We were alive during that time. For people who were not born until after the Berlin Wall fell, I think that this could be ambiguous. The way they presented this, I think that somebody that wasn't alive during that time might not understand that these crossings were all 100% in one direction. And the shootings were all done by one side. The gulags were all on one side. And the West, if you escaped into the open arms of the West, they didn't say, hey, I just saw you cross the border. We're sending you back. No, never. They were like, you escaped? High five. Oh my God.
Tell us your story so we can tell others.
Yeah. And I'm like, are you not aware? Like, there are 50% of millennials want to go back to East Germany.
They're cool with that. They're just as fine living under well, I told you the story about that kid that graduated from Elder. It's a Catholic, very well-to-do Catholic all boys school.
Yeah.
And he graduated from that school. He's black, very affluent, quite intelligent.
How do you know?
We were at a bar.
Oh, okay.
And he's like 22-ish. And a friend of my friend knew him somehow. Anyways, we started just chit-chatting and talking. And it was like a cigar lounge bar. And we were just smoking cigars, just talking, chit-chat. And I started to pick the kid's brain because he said a couple of things that I just didn't sit with me. And I mentioned to him, I said, so what about communism? What do you know about that? Oh, that's just different shades. Communism, capitalism, they're just kind of different shades of each other.
They're diametrically
opposed. And I looked at him and I said, bro, I got to tell you, you're wrong. And from that moment, it was complete shutdown, triggered, couldn't hear anything. And I looked at the whole crowd and said, you know what, folks? I can't even talk anymore. There's nothing to talk about.
Yeah,
this is game over. Game over.
Shame. It's a shame because it takes that level of obtuseness, I guess is the word I should probably use. It really is diametrically opposed. If you're a millennial listening right now and you're kind of on the fence, which we don't get a lot of listeners who are just total left-winger communists that are like, let me listen to Smith Radio and see if they'll change my opinion.
Well, the ones that do love to throw up absolute despicable, just horrible words on the message board.
For the love of knowledge and learning, you gotta be a little bit more open-minded. And here's the thing. I'm at the point in my life, because you gotta understand, I was raised by the state.
Right.
For the most part, which means I was inner city public school, where my parents would send me every day to get babysat by communists and indoctrinated into that way of thinking. And so I had no choice but to buy into it because that's what we were expected to do. It was understood that to go from a dumb, uneducated kindergartner to a highly refined, highly educated high school graduate, that you were to buy into what it is that they were saying, which, because of the way that the communists who have taken over the Department of Education have set it up, it would be that when I graduate, it was that I was a useful idiot to the communist way of life.
And I was told to make fun of Calvin Coolidge because he slept like a cat 19 hours a day. When in reality, I learned as I grew up that he was the precursor to Ronald Reagan.
Right.
Thank you very much, inner city public schools.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I joined the military right after that, it was understood because of all the movies that I watched, especially Full Metal Jacket was kind of the introductory video to Marine Corps boot camp.
Right.
So, of course, I had watched that probably 50 times prior to going to boot camp. I watched it when it first came out, and I said, man, this sounds like a challenge.
I'm going into boot camp tomorrow. I'm going to watch it one more time.
Oh, I watched it a lot. But I didn't watch it because I was going to the military. I watched it, and it kind of made me say, I want to try that.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
It made me say I want to be in the Air Force.
But that's just one of many propaganda videos with regards to leftism. And in that movie, they made it very clear that what they do in Marine Corps boot camp is they brainwash you by reprogramming your brain to make you think like a killer.
Right.
And I was like, okay, my number one goal when I go to boot camp is to not get brainwashed. That's all I care about. I'll go there, and also don't become Private Pile.
No.
Don't become Private Pile, and don't become Private Joker, where I get brainwashed into becoming a trained killer. Psycho.
Yeah.
Like total psycho. And it's reinforced by other, like, Vietnam era type video or movies where they tell you that if you went to Vietnam, you're now psycho, and you should be treated like a psycho.
Is that the movie? Is that Deer Hunter?
Well, Deer Hunter's the big one. But there's also Platoon, just all of them. Every single Vietnam movie was like, oh yeah, if you're a Vietnam War veteran, you're psycho. And that's why...
Apocalypse Now.
Yo, absolutely.
How does Apocalypse Now not let you know that anybody who joins any branch of the service
and goes to Vietnam,
they're all nuts? They're crazy, they're psycho, they're nuts.
And that's why I blame Hollywood for the maltreatment of all Vietnam War veterans. I think nowadays when a Vietnam veteran says, yeah, I served, and people now are like, oh, thank you for your service. That is new. That happened after 9/11. 9/11 happened, and all of a sudden, if you were a veteran, you were a hero. Prior to 9/11, you were a veteran, and part of it too was probably Gulf War. People, they had the Support Our Troops campaign.
Oh, that's right.
You remember that? They had stickers. Do you know why the Support Our Troops campaign came to be? Because when we went to war, everybody was scared to death that they were going to get treated like Vietnam War veterans when they came back.
Oh.
So they said, okay, right off the bat, from the get-go, we need to avoid that happening by making sure that everybody knows that we are to support our troops under all circumstances. So they had the Support Our Troops campaign. Then we had 9/11, and after that, it was like, if you served, you're a hero. And I'm not gonna argue with that. I mean, because I did serve, so obviously I like the treatment. But I'll never forget how badly anybody who went to Vietnam from 1975 and even a little bit before that, probably say from 1972-ish all the way until 1990, if you were a Vietnam War veteran, you were treated like absolute dirt. Oh, it was bad.
Despicable, lower.
I
was talking to my daughters about this the other day. Ironically, this came up. That they would, baby killers and just despicable human.
But it happened because of a combination of the reporting, your Dan Rathers and all that kind of stuff. The reporting and I think it was Tom. Who was the
Tom Brokaw?
No, who was whoever it was during the Vietnam War era who basically announced that the Vietnam War was lost, whoever that was, it was a combination of him, Hollywood, the reporting at the time, and just all the liberals of the day that just destroyed that era of war veteran. And that's just a shame. And I will never stop apologizing to the Vietnam War veterans out there. And I hope that everybody listening joins with me to apologize them, because they lived through it.
Most of them are successful, by the way. Don't think that somebody that was in Vietnam is poor or homeless. Probably not either one. Most of them became very successful, well off. Don't think that they became poor. They're homeless.
Right.
So we're wrapping up the 2018 introduction to 2018. 2018. This is New Year's Eve. It's going down tonight in a couple of hours. This is Smith Radio, Military Veteran Talk Radio. We do this every Sunday evening, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern, where we come out and we expose the fake news. We tell you about everything that went on throughout the week, wrap it up, give it to you in a nice little bow present. So you just unwrap it like, oh, Smith Radio, yay! And if you want, you can get your own Smith Radio 2018 Donald J. Trump Patriot Tribute Calendar. Go to patreon.com/Smith Radio. You can check it. It's right there when you're on patreon.com/Smith Radio. It's right there on our front page of patreon.com. Or go to the website, smithradio.com. You can see that there's a Patreon button and what used to be a t-shirt button, but should be the calendar button right now.
Okay.
Anyhow, you can get one of those or email me at brian@smithradio.com or carrie@smithradio.com, and we will definitely get you hooked up. We are talking about predictions for 2018 right now, and Smith Radio is here to announce that 2018 will be the year of the citizen. We're talking about exposing the communist underlying regimes throughout the world, citizens united around the world in order not to unite the world, not one world order, for each and every culture to have their own sovereign country into which they can live and thrive and do as they please and do as they choose. And in Iran right now, that's getting pretty violent. And the people, it's going to be a long haul for those folks there, because Islam has been installed and the government will not let go. There's no way.
Well,
without the intervention of another government, there's no way they'll never let go.
What's interesting, and that's how it always goes down, right? You see the Berlin Wall fall, and right after that, the entire government of the Soviet Union fell. And
USSR.
Then, they fell. That's just how it happens. And I think that that's what needs to happen. It's a shame that people have to die, but that's what happens in revolutions. I was just talking in a scope about the Revolutionary War. You never stop and think about this. Everybody always thinks about all the people who came out the other side of the war, and now they have their free country, and they write the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and everything goes from there. What about that guy, and there was a lot of them, thousands of them, who was in one of the first battles and doesn't survive it? Like, they go to heaven and they don't even know whether or not the revolution worked or not. They don't know if it was all just a failed coup or they don't know. And so there's lots of people that are part of these things that just don't even see the other side of it. They don't know if it ever worked or not, but they died for it. They were an integral part of making it happen. And, that's just the way these revolutions happen. And it's happening right now in Iran.
And apparently they're already citizens that have already been murdered in the streets by the government.
And it doesn't always work. A lot of people died in the attempt of
the one that that came and went that we reported on. It was pretty much scrubbed from any kind of media. The coup in Turkey. Remember that one?
That's right. Yeah, that one failed. And I was actually about to point out Valkyrie, the movie, which was about the attempted coup against Hitler during World War II. Apparently, a large chunk of the military realized that Hitler was psycho, right, and that he needs to be taken from power. And they tried to mount a very, very organized attempt at a coup. It involved thousands of soldiers, leadership from the very top, a lot of planning. And when they went to go and execute the plan, the bomb that they actually detonated and blew up Hitler didn't kill him, just burned him really bad. blew the building up, and I believe there may have actually been some deaths in the building with him, but somehow he survived it, and they found all the co-conspirators of the coup, and they executed every one of them. And it was only months before the end of the war where Hitler ended up killing himself with cyanide. And it's such a crying shame that these people were executed just a couple weeks before it was all over anyway.
So for the citizens around the world, for those of you ringing in the new year this year, for the citizens that aren't living under freedom but that desperately want to be free, we are praying for you, and hopefully one way or another something will come to fruition for you.
Yeah.
That's all I can say right now.
Yep.
However, if you're looking at the screen on Periscope right now, I've put up it's a meme. It's a picture with 4 different pictures. It's got Britain, France, Germany, and Poland. For the new year, the Britain government, special forces, and SAS will patrol the streets for New Year's in Britain, London, England, because of possible terrorist threats. In France, French government, 140,000 French soldiers
will be deployed.
During the New Year's celebrations.
That's a large army.
That's a big doggone army. Big.
Well, and France needs it because they've allowed the terrorists to totally infiltrate their entire country.
Right. And in Germany, the German government, we made safe zones for women who don't want to get raped.
Oh, so if you're okay, because that makes the suggestion that women will go out and they're okay with getting raped. That's
it's going to happen.
So there's going to be some women that don't want to get raped.
Just like they give the kids condoms because they're going to do it.
So we need to so you're saying that the default is you get raped.
Right.
But there's going to be a small percentage of German women who don't want to get raped. And so to accommodate for this small minority of the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
People getting raped. I mean,
that people don't want to get raped. That's a small minority. Small minority of people that don't want to get raped. Got to accommodate for these people.
In Germany, there will be tents set up.
Okay, to give them privacy to not get raped.
Correct.
Okay.
So if you feel like you're in a threatening situation and you see a tent, a safe zone tent, make it to base. Touch the base and you are good to go.
So it's like a game. You got to run to each of the tents.
However, if you are in Poland,
okay,
and we've talked about this on the show before, and I'm not going to revisit, I'm telling you, if anyone out there knows, please contact me. What was the deal with the jokes about Polish people in the 80s?
Oh, there was lots of jokes. It was like they were the butt of every joke.
They were the dumb, ignorant, but it turns to find out they're extremely smart, highly intelligent engineers, Jewish Poles, Jewish Poles. I mean, Christian. I don't know. Anyways,
it's a mix.
Okay,
there's a lot of different religions there.
So if you're in Poland tonight, Polish government, warning. It's going to be a chilly night, so dress warm, folks.
That's funny.
So if you're in Poland, you
now why is that? Why is it
safe?
Why does Poland not have places where you need to escape from rape, and also a need for 140,000 troops on the ground? Why is Poland not doing that?
I am going to take a guess. I'm going to gander at this. I don't know the facts, but I'm just going to take a stab in the dark. I'm going to say they have not taken in massive amounts of Islamic Muslim refugees from the Middle East. I'm just guessing.
Interesting you say that. They have actually been roundly criticized by the rest of the EU for not taking on as many terrorists as the others have. They need to take in more terrorists.
Well, and rightfully so.
I mean, there are refugees out there that need a place to go in order to find the object of their desire.
And we joke about this tongue-in-cheek, folks, but it's absolutely true.
It's absolutely happening.
There are many American, world-renowned rock bands that will no longer hold concerts in Sweden.
No.
Because of what happened in Sweden last night. Did you hear about that?
Every night, right? When you say last night, you can say that every day.
Pretty much. There were police cars were bombed and blowed up. Restaurant, police car, three different bombs went off in Sweden last night. But in these rock concerts, what the rape refugees would do is a dozen of them or so would surround a single girl, isolate her in a circle, single girl, and then have one of them go in the middle as they protected him while he raped her. And then they would just go through the crowd, just picking out girls left and right.
Yeah, and they would.
And by the end of the night, you got an epidemic.
Yeah, they would make it so that there was no way to defend the girl because they were surrounded.
Couldn't even stop it. Couldn't stop it if you wanted to.
I mean, honestly, if I lived in Sweden, I would start a campaign of deciding that whenever we see this happening, we need to all get together by the hundreds,
bum rush,
and attack to save the girl. And it because like if they do this in a dozen or maybe even 24, like a group of 24, let's say that's a
lot of people.
I mean, it has to be known that all hands on deck. Right. All hands on deck need to go in, hundreds of them, because it's big. It'd be like a crowd of maybe 10, 20,000 if it's a big concert.
Right.
Hundreds of them need to go in and start ripping people to shreds to save the girl.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
what needs to happen. And I'm surprised that somebody hasn't come up with that solution, but that needs to absolutely happen.
So a friend of ours, Thomas Paine, if you don't follow him on Twitter, Thomas1774 Paine, he has a message for you tonight.
He's actually an author at not Gateway Pundit, True Pundit.
He has a message for you tonight. He says, if you get hammered like a Hillary Blackberry tonight, call a friend to drive you home, dial an Uber or a Lyft.
Oh, he's giving us a PSA.
Right. And he's showing a BlackBerry that has apparently
hammer marks.
Been hammered. Yeah. That's a little PSA right
nice
there.
Of him.
Very nice. Coaches full of police showing up in London for New Year's Eve. Whole city on high alert. Thank you, Lauren Southern. If you're not following her, Lauren_Southern. And I guess PJW is back on Twitter. He hasn't been making videos lately because apparently he's been sick as a dog. And just real quick, I just want to give you a rundown, folks, of some of the great things that have happened this year that nobody's really talking about. This is kind of a ring out for Donald Trump. He's tweeting out here recently, must have the wall before the deal with DACA. Sorry, folks. Need my wall.
Okay.
No DACA deal. Need the wall. Donald Trump drawing attention to Amern Anawan.
Okay.
The IT guy that apparently might have been a lover of W. Wasserman Schultz.
Oh, I didn't know that was going down.
Yeah, they're saying that there was a connection between him and her, maybe a physical relationship in a sense, because they kept him on the payroll long after.
Come on. First of all, she didn't like men.
Well, when you're a spy for your party, you do what you do. I mean,
well, what I'm saying is I think that's. I don't think that's why she's paying him. I think she was blackmailed.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's possible.
He has everything. He has all of the info. He has everything that he needs to bring her down for good. I'm talking prison, treason, maybe even depending on if some of the things that resulted from this ended up in the death of American soldiers or agents worldwide. Right. I mean, she could be looking at life or the death sentence because that's what usually happens in whenever you make a mistake that causes the death of soldiers or agents or whatever. You're definitely messing around with possibility of death penalty type stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So watch for Hillary Clinton to throw DWS under the bus, just like they did Donna Brazier. Donna, I haven't heard anything from you lately. Give me a heads up if you're still around.
She was worried. She
thought
thought she was going to get Seth Rich.
I'm still worried about her. Absolutely. So this is the other big thing. End of the year 2017. Donald Trump has officially appointed more federal conservative judges in his first year than any president in history.
I love it.
Travel ban is fully in play. pulling out of the Paris Accord Agreement.
Yeah,
We'll talk about that.
This is
Nobody's
like
talking about that.
the
but we
dream
talk about
list.
that.
It's the dream list of conservative things that we all wish could happen, but the cucks out there, the conservatives that are do nothing, all talk type people, who, interestingly, Ben Shapiro made the argument this past week
He's
that
such an idiot.
we shouldn't be doing so much. We should be doing more talk and less action. He actually made that argument when he was subbing for Glenn Beck on the Glenn Beck show, and I was just beside myself. I said, is he really saying this?
Why do I follow him on Twitter?
Oh, because you got to keep your enemies close.
Right.
But
this by CNN Money.
Yeah.
I told you about CNN Money. Stock market goes down in the record books. Huge stock market's huge. Reason why I bring that up is because they brought up every single day Obama was president. And it wasn't as huge as it is now. It's bigger now.
Well, I made this argument plenty of times. The thing about the stock market during the Obama administration is it was all funny money. It was all fake. He turned on the printing presses on full blast. They were printing money as fast as they could feed it ink and paper, and that money trickles its way up to, they were doing the reverse of trickle down. They were doing trickle up, where they would shower fake printed money onto poor people in the form of government checks.
Yeah.
And that, money always slips through the fingers of people that are bad with money.
Yeah.
And always ends up in the hands of people who are good at acquiring money. And so as this stuff trickles up, it gets invested into the stock market. And so the stock market basically stayed strong under Obama because of the trickle up from showering the poor with fake money, and it's slipping through their fingers all the way up to people who know how to invest. And they would invest in the stock market with this fake money, and it stayed strong. Now that we have Trump, we actually have real wealth being created through labor and through, just production. And this is causing real stock market. And also, people are speculating that things are going to be more productive. So production doesn't actually have to happen in America. It just takes for smart people who are ready to invest their money to say, you know what? I predict under the leadership of a President Trump that we're going to have a more productive America. So let's start investing now.
Right.
And that's why you're seeing stock market go through the roof.
You get foreign investors coming from other countries coming back to America. Take a second look and reinvest in America.
Yep.
That's no joke, folks. That's real. CNN Money, unemployment at 17-year low. I haven't seen this since the 2000s. And I know I've railed against it. Trump railed against it. The unemployment numbers are hokey. It's not real numbers. I know that. Washington Post calling Donald Trump a liar and a flip-flopper because before, during Obama's reign, we were screaming and yelling. We, meaning Trump and everybody else, screaming and yelling. The unemployment numbers are fake because look at how many people are able-bodied but unemployed.
Right.
Yet now we're talking about the unemployment numbers, but we're also adding to it that able-bodied people are going back to work, something that Obama didn't want to happen and couldn't get to happen.
I don't know why he wouldn't want it to happen, but for some reason he thought it was just as well to just hand people who are able to produce by going out and working, to just hand them a check so they could sit at home. I just really don't get it.
Under a communist, some speculation, but underneath a communist regime, retirement was invented in order to keep unemployment down so that you could get people of 60, 65 years old, get them out of the workforce. You are done. Wash it, hang it up, wash it out to dry.
Yeah, it used to be.
Get the children, get the youths, 16, 17, 18 in the workplace. Keep it rolling.
Right.
Yeah, that people are living longer and wanting to work longer. So now you got a problem. You can't use communism.
Yeah, what if you're doing what you love?
In a communist world, you can't. You're not allowed to love nothing.
Yeah, Bob
except
Barker
the government
was doing the Price is Right up in through his 80s. But if it were up to the communists, they would have forced him out at 65. But he stuck with it because he loved it, and that's why he did it way into old age. I see that a lot with people that really love what they do. They do it way into old age.
And they're good at it. See, Bob was good at it.
Right.
But somebody like Robert KKK Byrd, Grand Wizard of the Democrat Party, who was an official Grand Wizard, Ku Kluxman, Klansman, and a mentor of Hillary Clinton's. Not a lie, folks. That's fact. Literally died in office in his 90s.
Well, he loved what he did.
He did, but he didn't do it well. He didn't do it the right way.
Right. He did it his way.
He did it his way, but not a good way.
Right, which was keeping the people of color down because he was a KKK member, which is typical of your Democrat Party.
There you go. So when we talk about old people, keep doing what you want to do. If you're good at what you're doing, keep doing it forever. If you ain't no good, you got some problems, you're senile, Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, Feinstein, got to go. Little senile, can't see right, go to a home, go rest up somewhere. Anywho, 17-year low, consumer confidence at its best level since 2000. GDP for the first quarter, 1.4% growth. The second quarter, 3.1% growth. And the third quarter, as we touted, revised up. Some are saying 3.2 to 3.3%. I don't know what their problem is, but nobody wants to give Trump the actual number. Who knows? With those numbers, speculation of fourth quarter GDP growth will come out in January. We will be in the new year. Speculation for Trump's second and third quarter were revised up. Speculation for the fourth quarter, 4%. Looking for a big win, rounding out 2017. If this be the case, I'm telling you, folks, this is going to the deregulation that Trump has been doing is the I don't know. It's like the radiation treatment to a cancer patient. The removal of regulations is absolutely allowing businesses to thrive and just skyrocket through. We got the tax deal, folks. We got the tax deal. The tax deal done. CNN interviewed 3 people. Even Trump even tweeted this out. CNN interviewed 3 people with a private individual accountant that redid their taxes in 2016 under Trump. Rich, poor, kids, no kids, San Francisco's, Boston, Midwest Iowa. They all got money back. All of them. It's a win-win. Telling you. This is going to be an incredible year, folks. 2018 is going to be huge. It's going to be one of the biggest years we've ever seen. The fake news that we're going to be talking to you about, we'll be throwing it out there. We didn't have time for this, but New York Times interview with Trump. They had 10 different falsehoods of Trump, which was absolutely despicable. They interviewed Trump, and then they did a hit piece, 10 falsehoods of the interview we just did with Trump.
Oh, my gosh. So really they were just trying to get him to say whatever so they could figure out how to make a list of falsehoods that he said.
Yeah, he exaggerated the trade deficit with other countries. I'm sorry. Okay, what do you mean? The figures that Trump listed accounted only for U.S. trade in goods and do not include trade in services.
Whatever. Why?
What are we talking about?
When is somebody arguing that we have or don't have a trade deficit? I thought that was universally understood. It's like they're literally trying to change the narrative that has been accepted by everybody.
Oh, and this other one? He falsely claimed to essentially gutted and ended Obamacare. Well,
essentially he did.
Well,
essentially.
Okay, and they say Republicans repealed the mandate, but that does not amount to a full repeal. No, it doesn't. But if it don't work and ain't there no more, and ain't nobody using it,
yeah,
it's gone.
So they're basically stretching the facts to make it sound like he's lying, but he's not.
Right.
That's pretty accurate.
He misrepresented what a senator said about the Russia investigation. Trump said, yeah, you Democrat Senator Feinstein said there was no collusion. But really, Feinstein said she's not seen any evidence of collusion.
Well, what did he say?
He said, she said there's no collusion. But what she really said was, I have not found any evidence of. Yes, it's mind blowing, folks. We're living in an alternate universe where everything's just blowing up.
She hasn't been able to show collusion.
Which means that there's collusion.
Unbelievable.
I know. Any last thoughts before we round out 2017, Carrie, and having an incredible New Year's Eve tonight?
Well, I would say this. If 2017 is so great, and we know that 1 year or less than a year or ready, set, go for Donald Trump as president was able to make America this good in such a short amount of time, knowing that his policies either haven't been done until the end of 2017, or there just hasn't been enough time for it to actually run its course to make it good. That 2017 is essentially the year of speculation, right? Speculation.
CNN said, Trump's first year, whatever. He's not responsible for it because a lot of things he did hadn't come to play yet.
Right.
They said that.
So 2017 is the year of speculation. I'm predicting 2018 is going to be the year where this stuff actually comes to fruition. So it's not going to be so much that people are going to be doing well based on speculation. It's going to be, wow, this stuff is actually in force. You think 2017 was good. 2018 is going to be awesome. Another thing, they talk about how, it seems like Brian was trying to paint the theme as being the year of the citizen, or 2018 maybe.
Correct.
I kind of feel like 2016 and 17 was also the year of the citizen, more like the year of the individual, winning back our sovereignty, our freedom, our liberty. One thing that nobody is pointing out, and I just want to throw this out there, and we'll have more discussion on this in the future. I think that the Trump phenomenon and how it has come to be and why it's worked and what people have had to do and work for in order for Trump to get elected and be successful and to have the popularity and the backing is very similar to what's happening in cryptocurrencies. Because before, what did we have? Centralized fiat currency, we still do. And we have this worldwide phenomenon that's pushing towards individual, decentralized currency where you have control over your own wealth and it's not subject to the whims of some centralized agency.
Right.
I kind of feel like there's a very strong parallel between the two. And so I think it all goes hand in hand. And I would like to see how the two continue forth through 2018. Hopefully, I think that they'll both go hand in hand. When people want to say, you know what, I want Trump to deregulate, get this leviathan of centralized federal government out of everybody's lives so that we can do our own thing and make America great by doing our own thing. How that also parallels with people wanting to also have control over their own their wealth through their labor, their possessions, buying and selling, transactions between individuals, and on all that kind of stuff. I want to see where that goes.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Cryptocurrency is, in my opinion, the purest of capitalism that I have seen. I love it. Absolutely love it. We are going to do a special, keep posted. We're going to do a special cryptocurrency. We're going to do it this week, but the illness got sick. They got sick.
Yeah.
Somebody the Democrat slipped something in my drink. I don't know. Anyways,
it's a conspiracy.
It is a conspiracy. We'll settle that somewhere. So we'll have all that for you, folks. Thank you for helping to make Smith Radio the greatest. This is the greatest year that we have had at Smith Radio. Incredible new equipment, new technology, new things that we're able to bring, a better show, visually, audio, putting it out there in the ether everywhere, whether it be on iHeartRadio, YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, Twitter, Instagram, wherever it is, we're there for you folks. Thank you so much to all our Patrons. We absolutely love everything that you've done for us, to be there for us through thick and thin for the years that you've been with us. And we couldn't do this without you. We would still continue to do it, but we couldn't have the production value that we have. This is all because of you guys.
Right.
Thank you so very much. Have an incredible, happy new year. We'll see you next week.
Next year.
Yep, see you next year.
Yep.
See you on the Periscope. Stick with us. Thanks, folks.
How does that happen? So weird.
With unfathomable power.
What kind of power?
Unfathomable. It's without fathom.
Yeah. Are you off?
Yeah. I'm
Okay,
off.
so is this off too? The speaker?